Below Deck. It's the reality television series on Bravo that debuted on July 1st, 2013. It chronicles the lives of the crew members who work and reside aboard a luxurious, privately owned super yacht during charter season. So, the crew members, known as yachties, must contend with demanding clients' ever-changing needs. Each episode features a different group of passengers, ranging from millionaires to party animals, and sometimes the work is just too overwhelming, causing yachties to quit or be terminated. In this video, you'll see the most shocking below-deck stars who were fired. Most of the time, Captain Sandy Yawn from Below Deck Mediterranean and Captain Lee Rosbach from Below Deck work with a diverse set of crew members. Some of the time, yachties are able to adapt to the challenges, and every so often, they just don't cut it and end up leaving in dramatic fashion. The seasoned captains are fully aware that sometimes crew members make mistakes. We're only human, but if the individual continues to put in enough effort, they'll usually keep their job. However, if the crew member embarrasses the boat or him or herself, they will receive that pink slip and be guided to the airport for a direct flight home. If the yachties drink while on charter, constantly clash with the crewmates, or display bad behavior in general, all bets are off. They're fired. Let's hit it off in chronological order. Andrew Sturby. Season 1 crew were left unscathed, so Captain Rosbach's first termination came during Season 2. Andrew Sturby was a deckhand and the first crew member to be fired. Even though he had a solid resume, he struggled during the season. Eventually, the duties wore him down and he couldn't cope. It turned out that he had actually lied about his credentials. When tensions got heated and suspicions arose, he admitted to Captain Rosbach that he lied. From there, he knew the boot was swinging towards his arse. Sturby revealed that he had extremely embellished his curriculum vitae. He was then dishonorably discharged. Dane Jackson. During the third season, another termination came. Again, it was from a deckhand. Dane Jackson stepped in to help out after an employee quit, but he was swiftly booted off the boat as well. At first, Jackson seemed to pull his weight. The crew and company seemed pleased with him, and the lady showed romantic interest. But a weekend trip with the crew led to his employment termination, and it all happened during a night of seeing him plastered in the galley. Aside from wiping out any romantic interest the ladies might have had, it seemed they were quite turned off even for respect as a colleague. During the episode, Jackson became belligerent and noticeably aggressive. Bosun Eddie Lucas told him to cool it, but his drunken temper raged on until Lucas had to escort him off the island where the crew was vacationing. Once he returned to the boat, Captain Rosbach lowered the boom and ended up giving him the boot. Leon Walker. In Season 3, Chef Leon Walker and Chief Stew Kate Chastain butted heads pretty quickly. Chastain, who was used to working with Chef Ben Robinson, tried to make it work with Walker. But the two colleagues seriously conflicted as their bravura was as unstable as thin ice. They were complete opposite forces unable to compromise. The straw that broke the camel's back came as Walker neglected his duties, which ultimately caused a fire in the galley. Chastain had to work the graveyard shift, preparing late-night meals for the guests. Walker finished his shift and headed to his room to catch some Z's. But he did not clean his station before retiring for the night. He left dirty pans inside a dirty oven, and it caught on fire. The fire was extinguished before there was any damage or major alarm. But it caused an uproar, with Walker and Chastain pointing fingers at each other. When the investigation ended, it was determined that the unclean kitchen was the cause of the fire. And as a result, Walker bit the bullet. He was fired. Trevor Walker. Although Trevor Walker was actually known as a senior deckhand on Season 4, he got the boot with no regrets and no sorrow. Overall, his attitude was snotty. In the past, Captain Rosbach second-guessed himself when it came to crew terminations, but not with the case of Trevor Walker. Here's the deal from the captain's perspective. Trevor doesn't play well with others. He's extremely offensive. 1 drink is not enough, and 2 is too many. He doesn't handle his alcohol well. He doesn't interact socially well with other people, and you have to have that chemistry on a yacht. The captain continued by stating, "You have to get along. You don't necessarily have to like everyone that you work with, but you need to be professional enough to set it aside, do your job, and get along as best you can. Trevor is just way too full of himself. Not enough room on that boat for anybody with an ego that size." Chris Brown. Early in Season 5 in 2017, deckhand Chris Brown was axed because he wasn't competent and didn't have the drive to work on his weaknesses. So, he continued making the same mistakes. He was kind and easygoing, but lacked discipline. He didn't understand the concept of working hard and being effective every day. He was more interested in relaxing. In fact, he was busted for napping on the job. The last straw came when it was too obvious that Brown was actually wet behind the ears, thus indecisive about his deckhand duties. Brown's termination eventually came on Nico Scoli's debut as a new bosun. He struggled with his responsibilities, so Captain Rosbach hired E.J. Jansen to act as a sort of co-bosun. But once Jansen came on board, there was not enough room for Chris Brown. Since Captain Rosbach didn't have enough time to teach Brown, Brown was the one who was fired. In Brown's own laid-back style, he replied in his confessional, "Cool, I was just dealt a shitty hand, and nobody seemed to do anything to help me with it. Who gives a shit?" Chandler Brooks. Captain Lee had to fire Chandler Brooks during Season 6 of Below Deck in 2018. Captain's final words to Chandler Brooks on the matter were, "We just don't have a chemistry. I don't think it's a good fit." Chandler Brooks arrived with significant qualifications and a genuine attitude of maintaining a blissful deck team. However, he wasn't willing to be a team player. Aside from often being scatterbrained, he had no interest in helping deckhand Riley Gerber learn the ropes. This led to raw conflict several times. Without the team, Brooks ended up becoming overwhelmed and exhausted. It only bred more mishaps as numerous communication errors and mismanagement ensued. The deck team fell into disarray. So the root of the problem stemmed with Brooks. Therefore, he was terminated after refusing to assist Kate Chastain in the interior after captain's orders. And to top it all off, he placed a charter guest on a slippery rock, causing her to fall and hit the ground hard. But Chandler Brooks showed less than a modicum of remorse. This was the last straw. Brooks was fired. When he was leaving, he was quoted saying, "It just didn't work out." He then commented on how he was actually pleased to be relieved of his duties aboard the Sienna. Once Brooks was dismissed, deckhand Ross Inya took over the job. Brooks seemed to leave with some of his dignity and on good terms with a few of the deckhands. Danny Zurich. Now, let's head to Below Deck Mediterranean, where we have Danny Zurich. He's the only member to get the pink slip so far on Below Deck Mediterranean. Zurich was an extremely enthusiastic deckhand, and everyone loves a perky person, especially in this field. But too much of anything is a negative, and Zurich was too enthusiastic. And what made matters even worse, he did not get along with his bosun and other deck crew members. They found him distractingly annoying. While he was often preoccupied with posting to his Instagram, his fellow crewmates were growing in frustration, busting their butts, working hard, but watching him snap some selfies. He was given a warning by Captain Mark Howard, who took his phone to keep him focused while on charter. But he ultimately kept talking smack to the crew and made out with a charter guest, even giving her his phone number. At that point, he was sent home, although he almost made it the entire charter season. Here's a quick review of those who quit. Not all of the people who left the yacht were given the boot. Some of them left for their own personal reasons. Deckhand Don Abnante in Season 3 and third stew Caroline Bedol in Season 6 both quit on Below Deck. In Abnante's case, he was aggravating his fellow crewmates. So when Captain Rosbach wanted to simply discuss it with him, he refused to be reprimanded and ended up quitting on the spot. Rosbach actually only intended to talk to him about it. In the aftermath, however, Abnante showed up for the reunion and seemed to have made amends with the rest of the crew. As for one of the most dramatic exits on the show, we have Caroline Bedol, who left the boat in tears. She was plagued by ongoing health problems, but also caused strife on her fellow crewmates of the interior. But after giving notice, she was harassed and verbally assaulted while she waited in her cabin to talk to Rosbach. She was never seen again on the show, and she was not invited to the reunion. Which of these terminations shocked you? And which ones did you see coming? Comment below.